Good evening, everyone. It's Dr. Shiva Ayadure. Welcome. It is 8:30 p.m. on Sunday. I hope everyone's having a good evening with their friends and family. Today, we're going to be continuing our series on joint health and obviously educating everyone on why we need to take a systems approach to pretty much everything in life, because when you take a systems approach, you have an opportunity to find truth. So we're going to wait until people come on in. We got people here coming in. Welcome. Thank you. People are saying love your work. Great. Love to have all of you joining us today. We have people from Florida. Let's see, we have people from over here. Blessings from Chicago. Let me just look over here so I can see what we got here. So let's see. So we have people from Chicago logging in. Let me just do this and I'll connect it over here. Chicago, God bless you. Trump is Rothschild's puppet. Flew on Epstein's plane. You are the light. Thank you. Truth. New Zealand, Vancouver, we have logging in. Indiana, Australia. Winnipeg, Canada. Great to have you. Australia, wonderful to have you. I have to visit Australia sometime. Scotland, Fort Lauderdale, Texas, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, Virginia, more Texas, more Florida, Baltimore. Great to have you. Pennsylvania, Minnesota, North Carolina, Idaho, Broward, Florida, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Louisiana, San Antonio, Tucson, Portugal. Great. Virginia, Michigan, St. Augustine, California, Rhode Island. Someone said, but Biden is used to further the agenda. Serbia, exactly, from Brazil. Tokyo, wonderful to have you. Illinois, Ontario, I assume that's New Zealand. Maryland, Australia, New York City. Great. Toronto, Ontario, Canada, etc. Kia ora from New Zealand. Stuart, Florida. Brooklyn, New York. Wonderful. Ireland, Flushing, New York. Great. All right. So it's a pleasure to have everyone. And I hope we're going to continue our series today on really educating people on taking a systems approach. So the agenda we'll get into, but I just want to let you know that Michelle, went to visit her mom down in Virginia, and she got in a car. One of the Uber drivers drove her, and he wasn't wearing a mask. And she asked him, "How come you're not wearing a mask?" He goes, "Well, my immune system's really healthy." And he goes, "Really?" And she goes, "What do you do?" And she goes, "Well, I take vitamin D3, I take vitamin A, I take iodine." And he was basically listing off the protocol that I had sent to Trump back in March. That we shouldn't shut down the economy. It's something I shared. And she said, "Where did you get that protocol from?" She goes, "Oh, my sister. She listens to Dr. Shiva." So, and then when she was in Virginia, there was a woman. She was staying at a hotel. A woman who was cleaning the room, an African American woman, and she said, "Oh yeah." She goes, "I'm in a very poor neighborhood. We're all talking." And, she was also explaining, these masks, I don't like wearing it. It affects my health. But she goes, "I boost my immune system." And she goes, "Where did you hear about that?" She goes, "Well, I take vitamin D3, etc." So same thing. She heard it from a friend who saw our video. So it's very exciting because, the notion of boosting your immune system is something that should have been talked about for 4 years. Trump didn't do that. And I remember in March of 2020, I got a call from a senior guy in the White House, a senior economist, and he was saying, Trump is not listening. He's listening to Fauci. And whatever reason, the bottom line is he was given other options. He listened to this guy, Fauci, who from a systems perspective, essentially promoted this unscientific way of looking at the immune system. And that unscientific way is that a microbe is a thing that always causes a disease. And if you look at history over and over and over again, it has been consistently shown it's not a there's microbes all around us. You have 60 trillion bacteria in your body, you have 380 trillion viruses, you have viruses everywhere. If it were microbes which cause disease, we'd all be dead by now. The truth is that fundamentally, when they said scurvy, for years they said, scurvy, 1700s, scurvy was caused by some, soldiers being unhygienic and hanging out together, which turned out it was because of vitamin C. So that's why they started, carrying lime and lemons on ships. And then I give you another disease, pellagra, which is where you get almost like an awful skin disease. Well, they said, oh, the Italians were bringing it here. Well, it turned out it was essentially, B3, okay, another vitamin. And you look at the history of disease, that ultimately you realize that the body is a very complex system, and it was designed to be a resilient system. It was designed to be supported. And the issue is that knowledge is not taught to people, right? It's a systems approach. So what we do is we try to take what's called a reductionist approach. And that reductionist approach we'll talk about is always trying to take this complexity of nature and try to say, just do this, okay? So what I want to do is today we're gonna go look at something called green lipid muscle. It's very interesting. It's green lipid muscle. It's Mussel. It comes from mussels. And we're going to look at its profound value on joint health. One of the things I want to educate people on is since we're getting a lot of people now understanding some biology, some systems thinking, and I want to just share with you, when I do diagrams here, let me bring this up. Oops. Set up my little pointer here. When I do diagrams here, you will see that there are diagrams where you have a red line with the hammer thing at the end, and then so it looks, for example, like this. So for example, if you take something like, let me take truth here, okay? If I type truth, okay. And now let's take another thing here called, let's say, scientific consensus. Scientific consensus has nothing to do with science. Well, scientific consensus, the problem with scientific consensus is, what scientific consensus does, it is a thing that will stop truth. That's what this symbol means. And you'll see it when I do molecular diet. From a systems perspective, this means it stops truth, okay? On the other hand, when we look at scientific method, which is a way that we arrive at truth, the scientific method, which is where we do experiments, this gives rise to, and here we use a green, okay? This gives, positive arrow here, gives rise to truth, okay? So these are two different symbols we'll use when we talk about this, okay? So scientific method supports truth. Scientific consensus destroys truth, okay? Similarly, I can take another diagram. Let's say let me clear this here. Similar, if you take something like, let's take something like freedom, okay? Here, freedom. Well, you'll find out, actually, let me go back. Let me clear this. I just have this really cool tool that I can do these drawings for you guys. So freedom. So we take freedom. Well, we find that censorship, right, is a way that the establishment and those in power have historically used to stop freedom. That's what this symbol means, stop, okay? And this comes from systems thinking. Now, on the other hand, if we look at things like, in the United States, we have something very powerful that a lot of other countries do not have. It's called, let's say, so here we have, let's say, the First Amendment, right? The Second Amendment, okay? These things are very powerful because the First Amendment and the Second Amendment are used to support freedom, okay? So you'll see how, you can look at it from a molecular, we'll use this sort of thinking when we look at different forces, okay? So these are literally forces, and you can start looking at things in politics from a example of forces, okay? So I'll educate you on this, but what I want to teach you is that fundamentally that there is a fundamental physics, and that physics that you can understand political concepts, you can understand molecular concepts, you can understand how your computer works, and that is the science of systems. And that systems understanding, which you can't learn, you have to take a couple of years of MIT or 3-4 years to learn this. But to me, that's the foundational knowledge that everyone needs to learn. And if we learn that knowledge, we can go beyond left or right, beyond the dialectics, beyond, black and white, beyond left and right, beyond Republican and Democrat, beyond WWF wrestling. The establishment wants you to be in this. They want to pit you in one of these areas: Trump, pro-Trump, Bernie, not Bernie, right? Republican, Democrat. And they need Trumps and Bernies. They need AOCs and Tucker Carlsons to keep the dialectic. And these guys are entertainers, okay? They make a ton of money. But we as working people, we have nothing to gain by their dialectic. The only way out is for us to build a bottoms-up movement and understand the physics of change. The good news is I've spent my whole life understanding this. I got a ton of degrees, but most importantly, I wanted to understand the science of systems, and I've made that easy for you. So I'll talk about this, but a systems approach is how we get the victory that we deserve. And that fundamental science will help us understand anything. Frankly, anything. It's a system science, okay? So I just wanted to give that preview. I'm going to get more into this. But today we're going to look at green lipid muscle. I'll do a political talk. I'll do a scientific talk. And the reason I want to mix it up is you're going to see that, wait a minute, the core way that I approach the world is a system science, which has been around for thousands of years. So if we can all understand that, we have a huge opportunity to win on our terms, not on waiting for some politician, some billionaire to help us. It's never going to happen. In fact, if anything, we're going to get enslaved. That's why our slogan is get educated or be enslaved. So let's jump into our talk today. We have people on Instagram. How's everyone on Instagram doing? Good? All right? Good. So let's go right here. And let me go here. And I'm going to stop this screen. And I'm going to change screens to our PowerPoint. All right. All right, here we go. All right, so let's jump right in. So what do we got today? So we're going to look at green lipid muscle and joint health. And again, we take a molecular systems biology approach here. We don't take a reductionist approach. So we're going to give some background, some systems background. We're going to talk about the Truth, Freedom, Health movement. I always embed that into these talks because I want all of you to become Truth, Freedom, and Health warriors. I want you to get trained. That's why I keep emphasizing that. And once you take the course, you'll say, oh my God, I should have done it before. Why did I wait this long? Then we're going to talk about a high level, what is green lipid muscle. Then we're going to show you the scientific approach that I take to that using this very powerful technology that came out of my PhD work called Cytosolve. We're going to then talk about joint health, like what is joint health? And I'm going to share with you the details of that. Then we're going to look at the effect of green lipid muscle on joint health. And then I want to drive this principle home to all of you, which is a principle of synergy. Then we're going to look at how much of this green lipid muscle that you're going to take as a part of when I go into this. I'm very pleased to announce that we've come up with our, using Cytosolve, we have our first product coming to market. It's very exciting where we've used a completely different approach, a systems approach to a product that can support or alleviate inflammation and pain. So this quick background, by the way, if everyone wants to go very quickly, if you go to BeAShiva.com, let me just take you there. So if you want to know where that website is, you're welcome to follow along. But if you go right here to BeAShiva.com, that's our website. And on the website, right on the top, you'll see there's a range of things that I've been doing, my life. It's not just the invention of email, running for Senate. Cytosolve is a very powerful technology, systems health. I created a technology in a company called EchoMail for analyzing email. We built our own data center, which we still have for helping the largest Fortune 1000 companies in the world. Also, we have a very powerful certification I built that's being used by thousands of products called Clean Food Certified, etc. So there's a number of things I do. I do have a full-time job like many of you do. I'm not a politician here. I did run in politics, but it's not my main focus. So the reason I wanted to share that with you is that if we go back to the PowerPoint here, go back here, is that in all of these endeavors I've done, I take a systems approach. So if you want to take a look at, for example, the invention of email, I could talk more into detail, but fundamentally the invention of email was about creating a system. Email is not the simple exchange of text messages. It's actually a system. And when I invented email, I did it when I was a 14-year-old kid working in Newark, New Jersey as a full-time research fellow before I came to MIT, and was converting the system of the interoffice paper-based email mail system into its electronic version. I named that system email, wrote the 50,000 lines of code, and got the first US copyright. This is back in 78, in the early 80s, when that was the only way to protect software invention. The reason I bring that up is if you look at that system, the way that email came from a systems perspective, interestingly enough, was not because of MIT or Silicon Valley. Email was developed in a very different environment. Email was developed in an environment, let me go back to this diagram because it's important to understand this. Email was developed in an environment where I had three different things. First of all, I was given incredible amounts of freedom. Let me go back here. So I was given freedom, right? And this freedom enabled me to do innovation, okay? And this was as a 14-year-old kid, but they gave me freedom. They treated me like an adult at this medical school. But in addition, I was given access to infrastructure, okay, that most kids my age wouldn't have access to. And this infrastructure led to innovation. And it was this infrastructure that enabled me to have this freedom. And it was the freedom that enabled me to also add to this infrastructure. And it was innovation that email was really adding to this infrastructure, and innovation. All these things are interconnected, but it was freedom, innovation, and infrastructure that gave rise to the invention of email. And all of that occurred in an environment of a loving family, a mentor, and the fact is that I was given, I had good public school teachers who supported me, but email occurred in that very, very important environment. It occurred in this very interesting dialectic where I was given truth, not dialectic, but this environment where I was given access to all the resources. Cytosolve is one of my more recent inventions out of my work at MIT, which is actually an infrastructure for modeling molecular pathways. Just if email was the electronic version of the interoffice mail system, Cytosolve is the electronic version of the molecular communication system. So when we look at green lipid muscle, what is green lipid muscle? Well, green lipid muscle is a bivalve mollusk. It's a mollusk, right? And it's found only in New Zealand. Interesting. Green lipid is only found in New Zealand. And it's clinically shown to have symptomatic relief of joint pain. And the bioactive compounds found in the oil extracted from the green lipid muscle. So here is the shell. Here's a mussel, like if you eat mussels, and an oil is extracted from this. And there are bioactive compounds in this, which are found to have effects for joint pain. Okay, so I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with green lipid muscle. I know we have people from Australia. Let me look what people are saying. Anyone from Australia? Okay. All right. So yeah, so we have some people from Australia coming in. All right. So green lipid muscle, that's where it's from. All right. So green lipid muscle. So here is a background on it. And by the way, if you remember when we discussed yesterday, when we discussed hyaluronic acid, and I think, yesterday we discussed glucosamine and hyaluronic acid. They had about 30,000 papers written on them, each. Green lipid muscle is sort of new on the scene. It's sort of a newbie in the world of ingredients. It has about, it has nowhere near the amount. It has about 496 research articles, quite a number of clinical trials, 21 clinical trials. And that's over 32 years of medical research. If you went on PubMed and you looked it up and you typed it in, this is what you'd find as of today. So so if you had to read all these articles to figure out how would you do that? Well, it'd be pretty hard to do that. What we do is with Cytosolve, we have an approach. We can take all of those articles, we can curate the ones that actually talk about, let's say, have evidence in there about molecular mechanisms, and then we can extract out the molecular pathways and we can look at a particular system, because some of these articles have nothing to do with joint disease. Some of them have to do with some other issue. So out of that, we find the ones that have to do with joint health. We have a systems architecture of that. Then we mathematically model it to get a holistic understanding. So what we're going to go through today, as we did yesterday, is we're going to look at all the literature out there, and we're going to understand from a bioinformatics standpoint what the literature says. And then we're going to use Cytosolve separately to actually take the molecular pathways and mathematically model it. Again, we're the only technology that can do this in terms of taking all this and applying it to these ingredients. So we're going to have some really cool stuff to discuss there. Okay. So that's green lipid muscle, and that's the approach we're going to be taking today. Now, the reason we take this approach, it's called a systems approach. It's very different that I, again, want to emphasize is than the story of the 6 blind men touching the elephant. This is called a reductionist approach. It's a big word that I use. Reductionism is not a systems approach. A systems approach, you look at the whole elephant. A reductionist approach is like the blind men touching the tail, the touching the leg, and they're trying to figure out what the hell they're seeing. And if they ever got together, you'd get a completely, a completely blinded view of what that elephant was. You would think the elephant, if they all got together, was some snake attached to a fan, attached to a wall, with a spear sticking out it with a rope, and sitting on an oak tree. And unfortunately, science is moving in this direction because of the fact that of the enormous amount of politics and money that's involved in science. Biologists study little pieces and they take a reductionist approach. So because you take a reductionist approach, you don't get a whole approach of the entire thing, be it the immune system. So you say, okay, all we want to do is get the antibodies up, right? Well, that's not the whole immune system. And we've talked about that in other videos. But a systems approach is very, very different than this reductionist approach. And I hope all of you study that approach, which I'm committed to teaching you. Now, a systems approach, what is that? Well, a systems approach for me emerged from understanding systems. Well, this is how the Western world looks at biological systems, right? Here's their system. You have genes and proteins and mRNA and metabolites. And this gives rise to metabolic pathways, how these interact. And then this gives rise to functional modules, right? Like, apoptosis or cell processing or fat metabolism. And this gives rise to the whole human being, okay? So in the Western world, you look at the world like this, but in the Eastern world, you look at it in a very different way. When I, as a kid growing up in India, when I was a child, or even more, throughout my adult life, I was very interested in traditional systems of medicine because my grandmother was a traditional healer. She practiced the traditional system of Indian medicine, which had a very different approach. It looked at the world in this way, right? In that system of medicine, you had completely different words. But they had a system. You had chakras and koshas, the human body, which was made up of organs, but was made up of these forces of vata, kapha, and pitta. And space, air, fire, water, sattva, rajas, tamas. Anyway, the reason I'm putting this thing to you is the Western scientists saw it like this, but Eastern people in the Indian medicine system saw it like this. So my interest after I finished my PhD was, could I interconnect these two worlds? And as I've shared before, this came out on the front page of MIT because MIT was like, wow, I had applied for a Fulbright to go back to India in 2007 to see if I could intersect the worlds of engineering with the worlds of Indian medicine. And MIT found it interesting that why would a guy with 4 degrees want to go all the way back? So they did this. It was a great article, front page MIT, talking about my journey back to India. And so during 2008 and 9 and early 10, I literally immersed myself in going back to understanding the Eastern systems of medicine from an engineering systems approach. And I had a big aha moment, which is what I teach in the course, because what I realized was in engineering systems theory, the way we study the world is through a certain terminology. And I don't have time to go into this, but what I want to share with you is there is a world in general systems theory called transport, conversion, storage, where you look at the world of this transport of information, matter, and energy, conversion of information, matter, or storage or structure. So we in the Western world understand this. What I discovered was that these three phenomenon were related to Vata, Pitta, Kapha. This is how the Eastern world, and they had a completely different word. So I was able to unravel when my grandmother looked at you and said, oh, you're a Vata body type, you're a Pitta or you're Kapha. Those terms, if you ask the Eastern people, they couldn't really explain it. But I, using an engineering systems approach, was able to show that this system of knowledge was directly related to this. And this is called the foundations of systems. So when I got back to the United States in 2010, I taught a course at MIT called Foundations of Systems. Integrating systems biology with traditional medicines. And what I had brought back to the world was recognizing that Eastern medicine and engineering systems theory were one. So in this class, 200 people would show up, We had on one side of the class, traditional healers, right? We had, yoga people, all those naturopaths. And the other side of the class were your Harvard MD, PhDs, your engineering students. And they would look at each other sort of in cross-eyed. But within an hour, I was able to teach them this whole discovery that I'd made, which I teach in the Foundations of Systems class, to show that they were basically speaking different languages. At the heart of this is a foundational knowledge that intersects everything in the universe. And I can teach that to people in a couple hours. So you don't have to go to MIT for 2-3 decades, okay? So that got put into a curriculum, which I taught for many, many years. It was really the professionals, and I've made that accessible to everyone. So that was really systems health, where I would teach people these principles, and I gave people tools. We're using these tools. They could understand their body as a system. They could answer a set of questions, understand how these forces came up in them. And this red dot, for example, once you answer these questions, it figures out your system type. The black dot is how your body's off kilter. And then you can figure out using this tool how to bring your body back to you, homeostasis. And then I created a whole set of courses. We used to offer this all over the world, master's certification, etc. And you can go find this on Systems Health. We have a lot of people, whole range of courses, books. There's a tool that you can use this to train others. You can get certified. But fundamentally, this course structure is based on this fundamental view of the world. And then more recently, what I did was I felt that what was missing was, it's nice training the yoga people and it's nice training engineers, but imagine if I could create a course that I could teach everyone on the planet like that. But it wasn't just about medicine, it was about life. So that resulted in the creation of the latest course that I have, which is called Foundations of Systems. And Foundations of Systems, anyone can take. It's part of our Truth, Freedom, and Health Warrior training. And what it says is, look, truth, freedom, and health are essential. They're founded on natural law principles. Truth is conversion, freedom is transport, and health is the foundations of infrastructure. Without health, you can't fight for freedom. You can't get to truth. Without freedom, you can't get to truth and health. But there's a foundational set of principles. And those foundational set of principles is embedded now into a platform that we've created called Truth, Freedom, and Health. So the bottom line here is that the scientific principles that run the universe, transport, conversion, and storage, are exactly the same as the scientific principles that you can use for political advancement, political physics. But without understanding those principles, which are founded in natural law, we're always going to be looking at left and right, Trump, Bernie, all this, and we're just going to waste our time. So I don't want to waste our time. So we have a very clear direction. We want people to get educated on these principles. Then we offer tools where you can communicate independent of big tech on this platform, and you can get activated. So let me just share that with you. And we still have people joining. Hey, Brandon. Brandon's back in. Brandon's one of our Truth, Freedom, and Health Warriors. He's also a National Guard person who served this country. Best to Brandon. So I'm going to just play the video. We'll share that with you, and then we'll come back to green lipid muscle. But I am committed to pounding away with the utmost emphasis, because of my deep caring for all of you, that we need to build a bottoms-up movement, but we're not going to be able to do it without the physics. And I have created the technology that I can educate you on that and enable you guys to interact independent of big tech, and then we can get activated on every issue. So let me play the video. It's something that's part of the ritual that we do here. And here we go. Let me go back to, and by the way, if you guys want to get to the video, you can go to vashiva.com, and all you do is you just scroll right down here, right on the front page, or you can go to vashiva.com/join. Okay. And on join, right there on join, you can join the movement. And let me play this for you.
We have allowed our country to be taken over from within, and the end goal is you will have a homogenized world where we will become slaves, because there is a condition among the elites that really thinks they're better than you, deep down inside them, that you don't deserve the freedoms you have. They don't. This reality is what people need to wake up to, and we need to all unite, working people. There's only one movement that can do that, and that is the movement that we started creating here in Massachusetts, the Movement for Truth, Freedom, and Health. Look, I've been a student of politics since I was a 4-year-old kid, studying revolutionary movements, left wing, right wing. There's a physics, there's a nuclear science to destroying the establishment. To build a bridge, you need to understand Newton's equation. You need to understand the laws of gravity. You need to understand Poisson's ratio. There is a way to build a revolution, and that's why I put this together. My goal is to train an army of truth, freedom, and health leaders. We don't need followers like social media. We need leaders, but they need training, because the educational system does not teach them history, nothing. So in 3 hours, that's what I've started doing. That's the solution. We got to train people. First, with understanding what a system is. The second is understanding the interconnection between truth, freedom, and health. Freedom is the ability to move freely, communicate freely, right? Talk freely. Without freedom, you cannot convert ideas, hypothesis into truth, which is science. And without freedom, you can't really get to truth. And without truth, you make up fake problems and fake solutions, which means you destroy our health. And without health, which is the infrastructure of us and our body, you can't fight for freedom. Third concept is it has to be bottoms up. Working people, people who work united. And what the right wing has done is whenever you say working people unite, that must be communist. Meanwhile, they've let the Democrats run unions, which suppress workers. Completely corrupt. But when you look at the arc of American history, it's been when working people came up. We need to go local. Every solution I'm coming up with as a part of this movement, we're giving the science, which is the truth, and then we tell people what they can do on the ground. Like with election fraud, we don't need to wait for some lawyer. Our goal is to train people, Dave, to go local, to go local, to go local, fight locally. Forget lawyers, forget politicians, forget celebrities. You got to learn politics, and there is a science to it. They lock us down, we should be ready to shut them down. And the fourth part of this principle is a not so obvious establishment. So when you look at a system, there's always something that disturbs you from getting to your goal. Well, the biggest disturbance is a not so obvious establishment, which are those people who claim they're for you, on the left and the right. The Al Sharptons who tell black people I'm for you. The Tucker Carlsons. Do you think any true anti-establishment person will ever be on Fox or CNN? I don't think so. They both mislead working people back into the establishment. Without this solid understanding of political physics and theory, you're screwed. You're going to follow on the left wing, Bernie Sanders. Oh, he said something. Or Robert Kennedy. Scumbags. Or you're going to follow, some right-wing talk show host. They're not going to lead us to liberation. It's us. And that political physics, it's a nuclear science of change. Bottoms up. We have to organize to understand that there is people who talk a good game and then look at what they actually do, left and right. I'm sorry, Sean Hannity may say some good things, but I don't see the urgency in his voice to get something done. And it can only come when you weaponize yourself with the right knowledge. You need to be able to identify a rat. Christ didn't go after the Romans, right? It was the Pharisees and the Sadducees who screwed him up. His own quote unquote people. And that's where we're at. So these 4 concepts I've built into a curriculum. People can go to beshiva.com, and it's an educational program. We need to train people in political theory. You need to have physics, and I've created that curriculum. People need to get educated. We need to get educated fast. And within a half an hour, I can teach people. 2 years of MIT control systems, I teach people those concepts. Then I apply it, anyone can understand it. And then you say, oh, I got to build a bottoms-up movement. They have to get politically astute, and then they have to go locally and act, not sit there on social media. They have to act locally, defy locally, do civil obedience locally, but with knowledge on how to build a movement. And the Senate campaign's expanded to the Movement for Truth, Freedom, and Health, and they can find it on V as in Victor, A, Shiva, vashiva.com, so people can sign in. They can get access to a bunch of videos. If they want to take a course and become a Truth, Freedom, and Health leader, I offer a full scholarship there, but we want people to make a commitment that they'll study, that they'll get certified, that they'll go do activities on the ground. So go to VA Shiva, Victory America Shiva, vashiva.com.
All right, everyone. That sets the tenor for today's talk. So, by the way, those of you, when you go to that website, vashiva.com/join, there's an infrastructure that we've built. We're not hosting this anywhere. This infrastructure is our infrastructure. Your support is what's helping us build it. We have our own hardware. We have our own bandwidth. We have our own data center. Some of you may know that I built a company for many, many years. We used to host the largest Fortune 1000 companies. So we have our physical data center that have contributed to this movement. Your contributions are helping us buy hardware, continue to evolve the software. And when you log into the site, you are given 3 things. And I want to cover that. This is not just, we just want another Twitter or something called Facebook. It's easy, frankly, from a software standpoint, that's really not that challenging to do if you actually study it. What's really interesting is us having our own technology and the technology is a systems technology. We educate people. We build a bottoms-up movement by allowing people to commune so they don't feel alone, and then giving you practical things to do, tools. That's what this platform is. And that platform is accessible to anyone who wants to get access to it, support this movement. And depending on your commitment, you can get access to tools too. So for example, the key thing is we want you to get educated, build community, get activated. This is a platform. It's not just a Facebook, okay? So when you log in, you get access to videos that you can't get on YouTube, you can't get on big tech. You get access to tools, so flyers and tools you get access to, for example, on the Get Educated side or Be Enslaved, right? We don't want you to be enslaved. You get access to the videos. Tomorrow evening at 7 p.m., I do a 3-hour course. This diagram right here will probably take you 2 years of an MIT course to do. Instead of doing that in 1 hour, I will teach you this, but you will learn the foundations of systems. You will understand the science of everything from this diagram. Then you get access to a tool, like I showed you earlier, where you can actually analyze your own, using those same principles, you can analyze your body as a system. And then you can figure out what are the right foods, supplements for you from a systems approach. Then you get access to the textbook, the scientific textbooks, easily understandable. You don't need to go to, again, MIT. I've made it accessible. That's one of the things that I enjoy doing, making very complex. So you understand systems, you understand how you can apply this to your body, your life, and then you get access to scientific reports. And this is for everyone who becomes a Truth, Freedom, and Health warrior, okay? You get all of this. And then I don't want you to feel alone. We've set up our own equivalent, independent of big tech, where you can interact with people. You can start discussion forums. You can start topics. Thousands of people are now interacting up there. And then there's also a social media component where you can create your own page similar to Facebook, but it's on our infrastructure. You can have groups. You can interact. And then you can get activated. Activated means we're giving you flyers and tools that integrate science and politics. So here's a card that you can print out in your own printer. 3.5 by 2-inch card. You can hand out to people about the risks of masks. What's the science? What's the public health implications on vaccines? We want to bring people over. We want to take it beyond vax, anti-vax. This is really focused on people teaching the science of vaccines, teaching people the power of nutrition and the public health implications. And those people who contribute to this, and you want to be a warrior, it's right there. Okay. We also have scholarships. or people just want the courses, the basic textbook, or just be a member for nothing so you can interact with people. So I have to do this. I would not be of service to you if I didn't do this. But as an educator, I can tell you that without education, you'll just be flailing in the wind and you'll just be a dilettante. We want people to learn the science. Now, the science I'm going to share with you, that system science is what we use to understand, be it at the molecular level or be it to understand the healthcare system, any system. So green lipid muscle, we want to now focus on that using this systems approach. All right. Now you'll see when you don't take a systems approach, some people say, oh, green lipid doesn't work. Or you'll have the other extreme in the health, in the nutritional industry, people saying, oh, it'll cure everything. This happens with cannabis. Okay. People say, oh, cannabis is a cure all for everything. Right. So people start, distrustfully looking at those people. But when you really look at anything, when you take a systems approach, you have a much more deeper appreciation for science and you are much more honest. So let's take that systems approach to understand, green lipid muscle. All right. So here we go. Green lipid muscle. Okay. As I mentioned, to those of you who are just joining, this is called Perna canaliculus green lipid muscle. It's a bivalve mollusk. It's found only in New Zealand. It's clinically shown to have symptomatic relief for joint pain, clinical results, and it has certain compounds. We're going to go over what those are, and it's found in the oil. So they take this and they extract the oil. So what are those components? Well, what you find is the two components it has is EPA, which looks like this, okay, which is eicosapentaenoic acid and docosahexaenoic acid, DHA, EPA and DHA. And both of these are potent anti-inflammatory molecules. So, by the way, EPA is 20 carbons and 5 double bonds. These are the double bonds right here. That's what these lines are. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here. This is actually oxygen here. And this has 6 double bonds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. And this is DHA. All right. So these are called fatty acids. These are the omega-3. They're not omega-6. They're the omega-3 polyunsaturated fatty acids. So these are the two important ingredients. So what are the health benefits people are finding? Well, the two health benefits, the biological benefits. We discussed two things in the lectures here. First of all, we look at the biological benefits, and then which means what's occurring at the molecular level, and then we look at the health benefits. So biologically, it's an anti-inflammatory, it's an antioxidant, it's an anticoagulant, and it supports lipolysis, which means the breaking of triglycerides, which could be good for people who are looking at, let's say, cholesterol or fat, breaking down fat. So this helps burn fat, anticoagulation, antioxidant, anti-inflammation. And that's what the research to date shows of the green lipid muscle. Now, the health benefits from the research is it lowers inflammation and pain. It improves metabolism. That's why it supports lipolysis, which is burning up fat. It helps reduce weight. And it's gastroprotective. It protects against ulcers. Okay. So now how do we go about understanding this, right? So I mentioned to you Cytosolve. Cytosolve is the technology that is the rocket science that helps us look at this without, in a very holistic systems way without killing animals. So what is Cytosolve? You can go to cytosolve.com. It is the technology that I created out of my PhD work during 2003 to 7. And for the last 14 years, we've been using Cytosolve in very powerful ways. But I originally was very upset that the pharmaceutical industry, just works on a single compound, right? They just work on synthetic compounds. It takes them around 13 years to do test tube testing in labs, and then they kill a bunch of animals. This takes around 6 years, and they spend 9 years in phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 human trials. And it takes around $5 billion. It's very expensive for them. And by the way, the drug that comes out of this has a lot of side effects. So pharmaceutical companies are actually in major problem because they're spending every year, they spend more and more and more money on this very stupid process. And they're finding less and less new drugs are even being approved by the FDA. So this process is failing. And a lot of people don't understand that fundamentally pharmaceutical companies are crashing and burning, meaning a pharmaceutical is a synthetic drug. This is why they're looking at the future of vaccines for them, because it's a biologic. It doesn't need to go through all that rigorous testing. You can't sue pharma companies in court if the vaccine fails or injures you. You can with pharmaceutical drugs. So pharma companies see a huge opportunity for themselves which means it doesn't have to be tested in pharmaceutical grade testing. They can make a lot more money, and it doesn't need to go they can't be sued. Okay, thanks to the Kennedys, by the way. All right, so that's why pharma companies involved. So when I looked at this process, I said this is really dumb, and I said, imagine without going and doing all this work, imagine that you could actually find the drugs long before doing all this human trial testing ahead. So that was really one of the motivators for Cytosolve. The other motivator was in 2003, right here when I got back to MIT, was that we found out that the genome project had just ended, and it turns out the human being only has 20,000 genes. When the Human Genome Project started, we thought what made a human being different than a worm was a number of genes. We knew that a worm had around 20,000 genes. We thought we had 100,000 genes. And as the research progressed over 10 years, over 13 years, turns out we only have 20,000 genes. What that means is that genes are not who we are. It's the interactions with the proteins and the cells. In order to understand the whole human, we have to go across these different scales. So the reality is reductionism will tell you that, it's only the nucleus we should focus on. If you have this gene, you're going to get this disease, and you're going to die. That was the old biology. The old biology starting in the 1950s was, if you have this gene, you're going to get this disease. So a lot of biological scientists, we as a society funded so much science, find this gene, find the gene, find the gene. Well, it turns out genes can be turned on and off. If we have 20,000 genes and a worm has 20,000 genes, clearly genes are not what define us. What defines who we are is not the genes. It is the interactions of the genes with what is called the proteins through molecular pathways. So it's all the chemical reactions, and a molecular pathway looks like this. So in 2003, I came back to MIT because one of the ideas was, imagine being able to mathematically model the entire human cell, understanding all these chemical reactions, converting them to mathematical models. And this was seen as an impossible problem. So my advisor at MIT, Professor Dewey, who held 3 professorships, great guy, he said, Shiva, look, you've always loved medicine. You're a whiz at computers. Why don't you come back to MIT and take on this challenge for your PhD? So that's what I did. I left one of my businesses, came back to MIT in 2003, and for 4 or 5 years, I put all my energy into creating a technology which would allow us to mathematically model complex reactions on the computer. And that was really the development of Cytosolve. So that way, we could not only eliminate animal testing, but we could decide what areas of research we didn't even want to do. So Cytosolve allowed us to scalably integrate these models. And this was the infrastructure I created. And this infrastructure is really a way that we can enable truth, freedom, and health, because we're not only looking at one piece of literature. We can look at all the literature. We can mathematically model it. We can work with scientific institutions all over the world. It's a collaborative infrastructure. It is an ecosystem. So I published a major paper on this, many papers I've published, but fundamentally, what Cytosolve allows us to do is to look at combinations of ingredients, which is what nature's made of, in this technology long before we go do killing animals or wasting our time in the physical lab. And by the way, this is how we build airplanes, right? We take a design, we model it on the computer long before we go kill pilots. So using this systems approach, I was giving a talk several years ago to the Arthritis Foundation, and they said, wow, couldn't we use this technology to really map out all the molecular mechanisms of osteoarthritis and joint health? So we were funded by the people at the Arthritis Foundation, as well as people from the University Health Network, great group of people that are leading researchers on our osteoarthritis. And I took that effort to use Cytosolve. So Cytosolve did the work of hundreds of graduate students and scientists. So in a very short period of time, we created the first molecular systems map of osteoarthritis. And not only did we publish a paper on it, which we're giving away to the world instead of just putting it behind some paywall, but more importantly, that entire map, we've done it in an open science format, which means it's for the world scientists. So we're not just holding on to it. I mean, we can derive technologies, but we've shared that information. So if people want to go to Cytosolve, and there's a URL called Human Knee Osteoarthritis, cytosolve.com, everyone in the world can access this. And let me just show that to you right here. So if we go right here to cytosolve.com / human-knee-arthritis. By the way, there's a paper here that's free. It goes through the entire 3-year research effort we did with UHN, how we came across these results. And then you can literally go to the actual tool and you can click on this and you can literally go and explore human knee osteoarthritis. We have like the Google Maps equivalent for the layman. So here's the human knee joint, and you're looking at all the different tissues, right? You have tissues, then we can go to the cells. So for example, here's the synovial tissue, which contains 3 different cell types. We can go to cartilage, which contains one cell type called chondrocytes. Then we can go explore the different kinds of things that land on chondrocytes. For example, different ligands, okay? You have growth factor, cytokines. I can go into cytokines. Typically, I want to go look at IL-1 beta. And IL-1 beta, we've mapped out every molecule that IL-1 beta gives rise to. That's a green, which means it increases these. And the red ones are where it lowers it. So if I look at MMPP13, which I always like to look at, MMP13 has a catabolic effect, which means it degenerates cartilage. And here we can then go into the details of it. So we've mapped out all the molecular pathways of IL-1 beta giving rise to MMPP13, which causes this catabolic effect. It also, and what you see right here, there's a molecule like ginseng, okay, ginenosides, which comes from ginseng, which blocks that. So anyway, the bottom line is we have this incredible tool that we've made accessible to everyone on the planet. People can use this now to really understand osteoarthritis. And what we did when we looked at joint health is we looked at a subset of these issues to really look at what are the things that affect joint health as a way to understand green lipid muscle. So when we look at joint health, if we go back to the PowerPoint here, we'll understand that joint health is composed of a number of areas, okay? It's composed of these 4 main areas. Now, those of you who have been following the series on this, you can, by the way, you can go to vashiva.com and you can get access to all the previous videos. You know, we do the live version, then we have another team of great truth, freedom, and health warriors who have a lot of skills, who have produced some into blog posts that are also coming in their own cycle. But this is, we began with looking at MSM, then on joint health, then we looked at chondroitin, then we looked at hyaluronic acid. Yesterday we did glucosamine, and today we're looking at green lipid muscle. What you find is each one of these ingredients affects joint health in different ways. The supplement companies try to market, take our product, it's going to cure everything, right? Well, what we want to train you here is to understand that these individual ingredients have effects on different aspects of joint health. They don't do everything, okay? So if you look at green lipid muscle, when we look at inflammation, which has all these molecular pathways, right? When you look at oxidative stress, it has different molecular pathways. Cartilage degeneration has different pathways, and cartilage regeneration. Now, to put it in a very simple way, you want to lower inflammation. That's what the red line means. We want to lower oxidative stress. We want to lower cartilage degeneration, and we want to increase cartilage regeneration. And there are different molecular molecules which are indicators of this. So PGE2, prostaglandin 2, is an indicator if you have inflammation in your blood. Oxidative stress is denoted by ROS, cartilage degeneration MMPP13, and cartilage regeneration by collagen 2. So by the way, a quick term, these are known as biomarkers. So if you go to your doctor, right, and you do blood tests, typically people can look for these biomarkers to understand the level of inflammation in your body, right, to understand oxidative stress, et cetera. So what is these phenomena? Well, inflammation is clearly when your body thinks it's under attack, right? So it unleashes a lot of different types of cytokines, inflammatory cytokines, okay? Now, if you obviously take a hammer and you hit your hand or you get injured, you want inflammation. You want your body to resolve that, but you do not want your body doing that forever. That's called a cytokine storm, or you don't have modulation. And this is when you get problems because your body starts attacking itself. So inflammation is valuable, but not if it goes uncontrolled. Oxidative stress is what occurs to your body when through different biological processes, like metabolism creates reactive oxygen species. Just like when you run your car, you create exhaust. But the issue is you don't want that exhaust to go uncontrolled, then you start rusting, okay, faster than you should, okay? Anti-aging is very closely related to this. MMPP13 is that molecule which is when your body's undergoing cartilage degeneration. And collagen 2 is an indicator of increasing cartilage, okay? So let's go to the effect of green lipid muscle. Now, again, I want to emphasize that we have a very powerful set of capabilities here. We're going to take it from a two-part, Cytosolve is a two-part process. One is to look at it bioinformatically, which means look at all the informatics, the biology, and we look at the literature. The other thing is we then use Cytosolve to mathematically model the chemical reactions of joint health, these inflammation, and then we drop in the components of green lipid muscle, the EPA and the DHA, and we see how that affects it. So we get a much more detailed view, a bioinformatics view and a computational view. So let's go look at that. So what you see here is green lipid muscle has these two very powerful molecules, EPA and DHA. And if you remember, the reason I wanted to do the diagram early on, right? The green means it gives rise to EPA, and this means it knocks off inflammation. So it has a 1-2 punch. It hits it with EPA and DHA. So green lipid muscle affects one of the joint health mechanisms, inflammation. So what we're finding is that it affects inflammation using this, and EPA and DHA from green lipid muscles lowers inflammation. So out of all those different mechanisms that are involved in joint health, green lipid muscle really doesn't affect oxidative stress. It doesn't affect cartilage degeneration. It doesn't affect cartilage regeneration. It really is good in lowering inflammation. So again, the reason I want to do this is Cytosolve is really a tool that helps you find the truth here. So if someone's trying to tell you, oh, green lipid muscle does everything, and it'll go affect joint health in all the multitude of ways. At least from our work, it's not true. So the truth is, it really helps affect inflammation. All right. All right. So let's go. So how does it do this, right? Well, green lipid muscle, it generates these two molecules which go and stop COX-2 from producing PGE2. And COX-2 is produced from IL-1 beta. And as you can see here, inflammatory cytokine IL-1 beta is a hallmark of joint disease. IL-1 beta promotes the expression of COX-2 via NF-kappa beta activation. EPA and DHA from green lipid muscle inhibit COX-2 and downregulate PG production. And green lipid muscle lowers inflammation through the downregulation of PGE2. Now, one of the things I want to mention to you guys, let me go to this other, since I have this tool, is that you want to understand something quite interesting. How many people probably know what ibuprofen is, okay? What is ibuprofen? Well, ibuprofen, if you read the back of it, is what's known as a COX-2 inhibitor, okay? Ibuprofen is a COX-2 inhibitor. So if you take Advil, all right, which is ibuprofen is the actual chemical, ibuprofen, okay? What ibuprofen does is, here's COX-2, okay? And COX-2 is a thing that produces, oops, let me undo that. COX-2, I wanted to do it using the right symbols here. So COX-2 gives rise to a chemical called called PGE2, okay? PGE2, and this thing causes, oops, undo. This thing back. Sorry about that. This thing causes something you don't want going out of control in your body. Inflammation, okay? So this is inflammation. Well, what does Advil do? Advil, it's called a COX-2 inhibitor, okay? Advil literally will block COX-2. It's like a hammer that blocks COX-2. And this is why Advil is known as a COX-2 inhibitor. Now, the problem is, Advil has, a significant amount of side effects. If you have kidney issues, it's going to cause, kidney problems. So this is one of the problems that we need to be aware of with there we go. I'm still learning how to use this tool, guys. Okay, as you can see. Okay, this gives rise to what we don't want in the body, which is, let's say, kidney issues. Okay, disease. Okay, so this is sort of gives you an idea very quickly what ibuprofen does. All right, so I wanted to give you that diagram. So if you wonder what ibuprofen does, okay, look at whole picture, special needs. Yeah, so you can see that Advil is a COX-2 inhibitor, and what we're seeing here, if we go back to our other diagram here, if we share the screen here, we'll see right here that EPA and DHA are also COX-2 inhibitors, but you don't have these side effects. Okay, so what I just shared with you is a bioinformatics of understanding COX-2. So the literature says green lipid muscle is very good for reducing inflammation. Now, what we did was we modeled all the molecular pathways of inflammation. And then we started looking at what different dosages of green lipid, the key ingredients in green lipid muscle do. And what do you see here? So we're looking at dosaging. So here's PGE2 on the y-axis. And the control conditions are about 15 nanomolar. By the way, just a very interesting point. When we mathematically model with Cytosolve, we're actually modeling stuff literally, if you were to take a microscope and go to a single cell, we're modeling all the activity at that cellular surface, okay? So we're looking at, in the bloodstream, how much of PGE2 it is, which is a biomarker of inflammation. And then we're looking at, now we give the input of green lipid muscle, and what does that do to affect PGE2? So we're modeling what's called at the cell surface, to be very specific. So this is the work that we've done, where y-axis is PGE2. We set we're simulating inflammation. This is called a control condition. So under control conditions, the PGE2 levels are 15 nanomolar, and that's what the literature says in terms of clinical. So we gave 2.5 grams of PGE2, and look at this dramatic drop. It went from nearly 15 down to around 7. That's nearly a 50% drop. We gave 5 grams here, and it went down to around 5 there. So we've dropped it by nearly 200, 15 to 5. What's that? Nearly 200%, right? So you have a massive drop in the amount of, sorry about that. It's 10, it's nearly about 60%, okay? We have about a 60% drop here. So green PGE2 levels reduce with increasing EPA from green lipid muscle. So our position is here, we looked at DHA. Remember, it has 2 components. It has EPA and DHA. So here we had 14, and also this drops it by nearly around 20%. So we're looking at DHA, the components, okay? So we're looking at the same dosaging, 0, 2.55 grams, and you're showing under control conditions, it's 15, and the PGE2 level reduces with increase in DHA from green lipid muscle. So we're finding that green lipid muscle, the component of EPA reduces it plus DHA. So it has a profound effect on reducing inflammation. And so when you look at the different pathways, oxidative stress, cartilage degradation, cartilage regeneration, you can see EPA, which is one of the main components in green lipid muscle, has a profound effect. The green light is good on PG2 and DHA. So I hope that makes sense. So what we're finding, so the net takeaway is green lipid muscle, powerful anti-inflammatory. Now, what I just shared with you is from a systems approach, you can see that green lipid muscle, this is what's important to understand. Pharmaceutical drugs are just one single compound that doesn't appear in nature. Green lipid muscle is a natural product, and it has two compounds, EPA and DHA, and they both pound away at the pathways of inflammation to lower it. That's called a synergistic approach. It's a systems principle. So what I want to share with you is that with Cytosolve, we're able to model not just one ingredient, but combinations of ingredients. We're able to actually model food with Cytosolve, which was a holy grail. So with Cytosolve, I want to share with you that you can look at combinations of ingredients. Right now, forget pharma companies, even the nutritional supplement companies, the way they produce those products you get at Whole Foods or Amazon, no, they just sort of throw, frankly, they do some science, but not this kind of science. They read a paper, they throw this in there, they do some clinical work, but they don't really understand what's going on at the molecular systems level. So with Cytosolve, what we can do is we can actually understand what's going on there. We can do billions of combinations on the computer faster than one scientist or two scientists. So this is the rocket science that we've created. So to understand that combination principle that we're able to understand, I want to take you through a simple example. Imagine you decide to go to get some Indian food, and Indian food has a lot of herb called turmeric, which is that yellow spice, the active ingredient being curcumin. And we know that curcumin lowers inflammation. In fact, they did an epidemiological study. Turns out Indians have 1/3 less liver cancer than all of Asia. And they've looked at it, it's because of the active ingredient, turmeric, okay? So imagine you're having your curry meal consuming turmeric, curcumin, and you're also having a glass of red wine. Maybe you're hanging out with some Italian friends, okay, who love Indian food. So you're having great Italian wine, which has a lot of the skin of red grapes. So that has resveratrol in it. What happens when those are combined? Well, with Cytosolve, we can actually look at that. And you can look at that relative to a cytokine. A cytokine is an inflammatory marker, which means you have inflammation in your body. So so I'm going to walk you through what we did this as an example to show the power of Cytosolve. So what we did here was we looked at, by the way, this is how people do combinations in India. My grandmother used to do this, but they can't explain to you, well, how do they decide to put dosage of A or B? With Cytosolve, what we've done is we've mined the literature. The outer circle here is a nuclear wall, the inner circle, the cell wall, the nuclear wall. And we have looked at all the molecules of interest in inflammation and how they interact with curcumin, which is in the curry meal. And you can see all the different places, those red arrows, that curcumin is blocking different things. It blocks COX-2. It blocks NF-kappa beta over here. That's why it's good as an anti-cancer weapon. Then over here, we looked at resveratrol. Resveratrol also blocks a lot of these pathways. And then we can look at how they combine, and we can literally run computational experiments without killing animals. So the last column here is the bad molecule, the cytokine. And we want to bring this down. So first, we don't give any curcumin, any resveratrol. You can see this is high. Then we just give curcumin right here, second row. I drop in 5 units of curcumin, and you can see, boom, the inflammation comes down, matching what the literature says, the clinical literature. Then we mathematically look at then we just give resveratrol, which is from the skin of red grapes. And boom, that also comes down. Not as good as curcumin, but it's pretty good. Then we say, what happens if I start combining these two? I don't give as much resveratrol, and I don't give curcumin, and I don't give as much resveratrol. 40% less, 60%, and boom, it comes down by another 50%, 0.03. So let me just show that, okay? This brings it down pretty good, but when you combine it, but we're using the same amount of ingredients, but we're doing less curcumin, resveratrol, and we get a much more profound, a doubling effect. And this is what's called the synergistic effect. It's called the ensemble effect. It's like you're an orchestra conductor. That's why food is so powerful, because you're not just playing the violin, or you're not just playing the oboe, you're putting things together. We just finished a major research project for a company called Juice Plus, where they came to us and they said, look, we take juice and we dry it. We have done clinical research, but we don't know why our product works. So we took all 130 phytochemicals. We modeled the pathways of low-grade inflammation. We tested all the combinations, and we found out why it works. That's what Cytosolve is so powerful. We can find out why things work. So recently what we did was we looked at a whole range of natural ingredients out there, and we found two very powerful bioflavonoids that come from natural products. So we're not pharmaceuticals. And we ran through trillions and trillions of chemical reactions and combinations, and we found two ingredients that have an amazing and incredible effect on lowering the markers of pain and inflammation, discomfort, and swelling. And so for years, for 16 years, I've been helping lots of other companies. But over the last years, we've built our own mathematical models. And we said, why don't we start doing this? Because it's great working for companies, helping them, but they take a long time, 1 year, 2 year project. We said, why don't we try to figure out for our own truth, freedom, and health movement, for all the community of people, what would work? And so I'm pleased to announce that this is our first product that we're also launching, called MV25. So let me show that to you. And you can get this on our shop. It's on pre-order. We're right in the middle of production of this. It's quite exciting. So let me go back to this. So we have a product called MV25, and MV25, you can go to BeAnslaved.com, the shop, and I'll show you where it is. And what is MV25? It's coming under our movement, which is a systems approach. So we're not taking the new age approach of just sort of reading some papers or saying, trust us, the earthy, crunchy granola, good people. We're not taking a pharma approach. We're saying, look, we're taking a systems approach. MV in physics means momentum, mass times velocity. That's why we named this as, and it's a momentum to move. And it's a proprietary blend of bioflavonoids to help relieve discomfort and support the body's normal inflammatory process. And the labeling on the back is really cool, because we're not making some great claim. We're saying the powerful way we're formulating this product. It says MV25 was formulated using the Cytosolve computational engineering and computational systems biology platform, a technology for precision and personalized health, invented by Dr. Shiva during his doctoral research at MIT. This formulation results from integrating. So we're not just taking 1 or 2 papers. We went through thousands of peer-reviewed scientific papers across that 4 decades in 68 research institutions. That's what those papers represent. And we computed trillions, not like a few reactions, but trillions of potential combinations of biomolecular interactions, of potential combinations of biomolecular interactions, to discover an optimal synergy of compounds that downregulate those biomarkers I just shared with you of pain and of discomfort and normal swelling. And Cytosolve optimized. So when you see this brand, what it means is that this formula has been optimized to maximize the benefits of bioavailability while minimizing toxicity based on current research curated by Cytosolve. So as the science advances, so will this formulation. This is our promise, and I want to get back to that. But it's clean certified, vegetarian sources on the capsules, and it's GMP certified, made in the United States, and it supports this movement. So why did I want to share this with you? Because, look, the bottom line is we're building our movement. And I don't want to wait for the pharma guys. I don't even want to wait for a lot of these nutraceutical companies. It was great helping them, but I want to accelerate our movement. So this is very exciting, because we are taking this very powerful rocket science engine, and we want to bring it to all of you, where we went through all those combinations. We did the molecular reactions, but most importantly, Cytosolve is like an operating system. We're not saying that what we have today won't change. Remember, science is constantly changing. As new science comes, we'll update our chemical reactions. So if we find someone in a new lab did a new reaction, we'll include that. We're not going to just cherry pick it, which means we're going to get closer and closer and closer to truth. So as the science changes MV25's formulation will change. Oh, okay. Where do you get it? Okay, sorry about that. You can get MV25 right on the website. So if you go to, if you go to vashiva.com, let me take you right there. If you go to vashiva.com, right onto our website, vashiva.com, and let me go back here. And you go to just the main website. And by the way, I want to thank all of the support. It's your contributions that are making this website possible. Every day now we're updating content. We have new blog posts coming. And by the way, people can go to the dashboard to sign in. But if you go right here to the shop, when you go to the shop, we have our books, and here's our new product, MV25. So you can go right to the shop. We have pre-orderings out there. You can find everything you want to know about the product here, the labels here at the front, and this is going to be coming out very soon. It's going to go very quickly, but this is our first opportunity to share this with the world, and we're going to coming up with more and more products, because what we want to do is, instead of waiting for some other nutraceutical companies, pharma, whatever, they're doing these very reductionist approaches. We're taking a systems approach using Cytosolve. So please take advantage of that. But on that same website, a lot of you are very excited about MV25. Awesome. When you buy the product, it supports the movement. But also, I want to encourage you, all of you, we want to build an army. In the invention of email was obviously a great technology. Cytosolve is a great technology that I did, Echo Mail. But I believe that one of the most powerful technologies that I'm building right now is the Truth, Freedom, and Health platform. And that platform is to enable I want to have 50,000 Truth, Freedom, and Health warriors, an army of people out there who are getting educated on the physics of revolutionary change. We need the education so you don't get confused by the not so obvious establishment or top down. It's not Trump is not going to change the world. I'm sorry. He's now trying to push people to have his arguments with the RNC, push people into the same dialectic, just like Bernie did. The only way we're going to win is a bottoms up movement. And during this movement, we're not just going to wait for the solution. We'll be creating our own products. We'll be creating our own solutions. So when you go to the website, vashiva.com, obviously, for your health, MV25's there. But more importantly, I want to emphasize, or in addition, not more importantly, is that when you go to join vashiva.com/join, you can literally support the movement, because we're building the hardware infrastructure, we're building the software infrastructure, and we're building the educational infrastructure. So when we go to vashiva.com, the front page, you can see that right on the, I guess a lot of people are hitting the website, which is cool. Let me just close this down here. On the front page on the website, let me go back here. If I go right to the dashboard. Yeah, let me go right to the dashboard here. Sorry about that. If you go to vashiva.com, I'm going to go right into the dashboard, which I'm going to log into because I was in it earlier. I guess we must have, this is why we're going to beef up our hardware architecture, but we have a lot of people hitting the website. But when you go to that website and you go into the dashboard, you can see that you can literally get access to all the tools that I talked about before, okay? Someone said, let's take some questions. Dr. Shiva, will MV25 be sold on Amazon as well? Look, I'm seriously thinking about it. I don't really care for Amazon. Yes, it's a good way to, get our product out there. Yes, it's a good way to get tools out there. But I would, rather create an environment where it's bottoms up. We have a lot of our Truth, Freedom, and Health warriors who want to actually support getting MV25 out there. So we're probably going to create our own distribution channel right off our website. And those of you who are interested in, and we're thinking about this, being affiliates, being able to distribute it, we may do that. We want it to be bottoms up. I'd rather give you guys money rather than Amazon. I really don't like Amazon. You know, we're all having to deal with them. So I'm thinking we're not doing it on Amazon right now. Let's see, what other questions? Let's see what questions we have here. To hell with Amazon. Yeah. So I'd rather do it. That's why we're creating our infrastructure here, because we want to have an environment where we can go direct with people. We're not reliant on any of these companies, that we have our own infrastructure, and we can, I'd rather, one of our warriors were saying, hey, look, what I want to distribute it. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I would like to distribute your product. So we're thinking about the fact, why don't we support our own people if they want to be entrepreneurial with the products that we make? So we may end up doing that. We may do it on our store and do it, but I'd rather make it all grassroots, bottoms up. Cytosolve is a grassroots methodology. MB25 is grassroots, meaning we're literally looking at all the research bottoms up. Okay. No Amazon. I love the idea of being distributors, honest. So if you guys, by the way, and I want to make that to our Truth, Freedom, and Health Warrior. So go become a Truth, Freedom, and Health Warrior, because I want you to get educated. When you get educated, you're supporting the movement, you're supporting yourself. So anyway, I want to end by saying that that everything in the universe is interconnected, and that interconnection can be understood when you take a systems approach. That's what the reality is. Whether at the smallest molecular level, or at the biggest galaxies, or in your own body, or in political systems, everything is interconnected. The physics of that interconnection can be understood through the phenomena of transport, conversion, and storage. That's tomorrow night. I'll teach my 3-hour course. I want all of you to really understand that if you can understand this physics, which I've taken me 30 years to distill it into an educational way, that you don't need to go to MIT, you can learn this. And that's really the technology here, the educational technology. And then I want you to build community. And then I want you to become system scientists, political physicists, so you can start understanding how we go local, go local, go local. Forget, as I said in the video, forget the Democrats, forget the Republicans, forget Trump, forget Bernie, forget all these guys. We build our movement bottoms up. That's how we're going to win. We're not going to win by relying on others. We're going to win by building a bottoms up movement. That's how we're going to win. We're not going to win on their terms. We're going to win it on our terms. So when you go to VA Shiva and you sign in and you log in, you'll find out that the dashboard that we have is a tool for you. It's really your tool, so you can learn this knowledge. It's like a university. It's a Twitter, a Facebook equivalent. It's all of it combined, and it's a platform for activism. So let me just show you here, and I'll play my video. Let me go right here. Okay, here we go. So if you go to the website, and you can log in through the dashboard, I just logged in, and you'll find out you have videos that you can't get on YouTube, right? You go to the forum, as I mentioned. This is on our own social media platform. You can literally start your own groups. You can meet people from all over the world who are members. It's absolutely free. You can go in here and you can start a topic, right? You can see all of these conversations that are going on. We have people meeting each other, hundreds and hundreds of conversations people are starting without being tossed off. Then there is a social media platform that we've built. Again, this is on our technology platform, on our hardware. So you can go in here, you can join a group, and this is for the warriors. This is not for everyone. There's some little different. So there's different courses here. When you go into the groups, there's members every day. New and new warriors are signing in, and these are the warriors members. And when you go in here, you can set up your own platform here, so you can see people are signing from all over the world, creating their platform. And then we also have tools. For example, as I mentioned, here's the card that you can print out. Go to a printer, go to local Staples, whatever you have, and you can educate people on masks. You can understand building awareness of the mask. Here's a science of masks. You can educate people how the masks affect the oral microbiome. And there's a whole link on here just on masks. So we're creating powerful content and making you an activist. That's what the goal is. So you don't whine and you moan. We want to get you activated. You meet people. And then obviously you have all the books, you have all the tools, you have all the lectures. It's quite an amazing platform. I'm pretty excited for all of you. And I hope you guys take advantage of it sooner than later. My goal is by the end of this year, we want to have 50,000 truth, freedom, and health warriors. So when you go to that site, you contribute whatever you want. You contribute 100 or more, then I give you all the tools to become a truth, freedom, and health warrior. You just want to contribute 25 or more, you get the books and the tools, or you can just get in there for free. You just want to hang out and meet some people on the forum. But the bottom line is we need to build a bottoms up movement. Forget left and right, forget black and white, because that's the dialectic. You see, that's the non-systems approach. That's WWF wrestling. That's Hollywood. Okay, that's casinos. Okay, and that's what they're doing right now. The Democrats need Trump right now. Go look at the videos. The Republicans need Trump because they need the dialectic, and we don't need Trump. What we need is you, and you need you, and we need a bottoms-up movement. That's how real change has always taken place. Bottoms up, bottoms up, bottoms up. Thank you, everyone. I hope you all have a wow. It's already 10. Okay. Great, everyone. Once again, it was my pleasure. So keep an eye out tomorrow. We'll have 2 videos. We have a big launch. I've been wanting to launch our clean elections thing, which I'm going to talk about. It's been delayed a little bit, but tomorrow, 99% chance it's going to be up and running. So thank you, everyone. Be well, be the light, and let's keep up the fight. Thank you. By the way, I'm sorry. I got to do the honors and play our video like we always do. And please go to vashiva.com, support the movement, do this for yourself, do it for your community, do it, but most importantly, do it for yourself. So by the way, I'm logging out here. I can log out and then I can go to vashiva.com/join right here. And then I'm going to play the video and share this video with as many people as you know. This is really our call to action. Be well, everyone, but watch the video. Here we go.
We have allowed our country to be taken over from within, and the end goal is you will have a homogenized world where we will become slaves, because there is a condition among the elites that really thinks they're better than you, deep down inside them, that you don't deserve the freedoms you have. They don't. This reality is what people need to wake up to. And we need to all unite working people. There's only one movement that can do that. And that is the movement that we started creating here in Massachusetts, the movement for truth, freedom, and health. Look, I've been a student of politics since I was a 4-year-old kid, studying revolutionary movements, left wing, right wing. There's a physics, there's a nuclear science to destroying the establishment. To build a bridge, you need to understand Newton's equation. You need to understand the laws of gravity. You need to understand Poisson's ratio. There is a way to build a revolution. And that's why I put this together. My goal is to train an army of truth, freedom, and health leaders. We don't need followers like social media. We need leaders, but they need training, because the educational system does not teach them history, nothing. So in 3 hours, that's what I've started doing. That's the solution. We got to train people. First, with understanding what a system is. The second is understanding the interconnection between truth, freedom, and health. Freedom is the ability to move freely, communicate freely, right? Talk freely. Without freedom, you cannot convert ideas, hypothesis into truth, which is science. And without freedom, you can't really get to truth. And without truth, you make up fake problems and fake solutions, which means you destroy our health. And without health, which is the infrastructure of us and our body, you can't fight for freedom. Third concept is it has to be bottoms up, working people, people who work united. And what the right wing has done is whenever you say working people unite, that must be communist. Meanwhile, they've let the Democrats run unions, which suppress workers, completely corrupt. But when you look at the arc of American history, it's been when working people came up. We need to go local. Every solution I'm coming up with as a part of this movement, we're giving the science, which is the truth, and then we tell people what they can do on the ground. Like with election fraud, we don't need to wait for some lawyer. Our goal is to train people. They have to go local, to go local, to go local, fight locally. Forget lawyers, forget politicians, Forget celebrities. You got to learn politics, and there is a science to it. They lock us down, we should be ready to shut them down. And the fourth part of this principle is a not so obvious establishment. So when you look at a system, there's always something that disturbs you from getting to your goal. Well, the biggest disturbance is a not so obvious establishment, which are those people who claim they're for you, on the left and the right. The Al Sharptons who tell black people I'm for you. The Tucker Carlsons. Do you think any true anti-establishment person will ever be on Fox or CNN? I don't think so. They both mislead working people back into the establishment. Without this solid understanding of political physics and theory, you're screwed. You're going to follow on the left wing, Bernie Sanders. Oh, he said something. Or Robert Kennedy. Scumbags. Or you're going to follow, some right-wing talk show host. They're not going to lead us to liberation. It's us. And that political physics, it's a nuclear science of change. Bottoms up. We have to organize to understand that there is people who talk a good game and then look at what they actually do, left and right. I'm sorry, Sean Hannity may say some good things, but I don't see the urgency in his voice to get something done. And it can only come when you weaponize yourself with the right knowledge. You need to be able to identify a rat. Christ didn't go after the Romans, right? It was the Pharisees and the Sadducees who screwed him up. His own quote unquote people. And that's where we're at. So these four concepts I've built into a curriculum. People can go to BeAShiva.com, and it's an educational program. We need to train people in political theory. You need to have physics, and I've created that curriculum. People need to get educated. We need to get educated fast. And within a half an hour, I can teach people 2 years of MIT control systems. I teach people those concepts. Then I apply it. Anyone can understand it. And then you say, oh, I got to build a bottoms-up movement. They have to get politically astute, and then they have to go locally and act, not sit there on social media. They have to act locally, defy locally, do civil obedience locally, but with knowledge on how to build a movement. The Senate campaign's expanded to the Movement for Truth, Freedom, and Health, and they can find it on V as in Victor, A, Shiva, VAShiva.com, so people can sign in. They can get access to a bunch of videos. If they want to take a course and become a Truth, Freedom, and Health leader, I offer a full scholarship there, but we want people to make a commitment that they'll study, that they'll get certified, that they'll go do activities on the ground. So go to VAShiva, Victory America Shiva, VAShiva.com.
All right, everyone. I hope everyone has a good evening. And I'll see you tomorrow. And please email me at vashiva@vashiva.com because your ideas help us organize our different topics that I do videos about. So tomorrow I'll be doing 2 videos, one on a political thing on clean elections and how we get there. Everything we do here is about action. We're not here to we'll do the analysis. That'll be about 50%, but the other 50% or more will be about what we do now at the local level, because it's action that defines character. It's not just whining, okay? This movement is about a bottoms-up movement and taking action here and now so we alleviate human suffering, so we get the truth, freedom, and health we all need and deserve. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Best to you and your family. Be well.